Well, our big focus, nearly a week after Donald Trump's second presidential inauguration, Prime Minister Modi engaged in a phone conversation with the US President, where both the leaders discussed critical world affairs and also reaffirmed their commitment to a strong but mutually beneficial partnership. Additionally, our Prime Minister and the US President agreed to meet soon at a mutually convenient time, with Trump's expected visit to India this year aligning with the summit of the Quad leaders. In fact, Prime Minister Modi wrote on X that he was delighted to speak with dear friend Trump. But you have to note that Prime Minister Modi's post also comes days after External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar and his US counterpart Marco Rubio held a bilateral meeting in which Washington said they discussed irregular migration. Take a look at the finer details, followed by Jessica Stone's report.
The United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
US President Donald Trump is back in the White House with the Modi-Trump bonhomie back in focus. A week after the historic inauguration, Prime Minister Narendra Modi dialed President Trump, congratulating whom he called a dear friend on a historic second term. Their first conversation since the latter assumed office last week. Taking to X, PM Modi revealed that the two leaders discussed bilateral ties, underscoring New Delhi's commitment to a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership with Washington. He also emphasized that the two countries shared commitment to working together for global peace and stability. Foreign Minister Jaishankar was also one of the first to meet Secretary of State Marco Rubio hours after his Senate confirmation. The two discussed bilateral issues including immigration, visas, trade, and more. PM Modi, who is in his third term, shared a close relationship with the US leader during Trump's first presidency. The two leaders found common ground on a range of issues, from counterterrorism to the growing importance of the Indo-Pacific. It was also under Trump's first term that saw the revival of the Quad involving the US, India, Japan, and Australia over shared concerns over China's rising influence in the region. The group was upgraded to the ministerial level, with Washington recognizing India as a key partner in maintaining regional stability. However, this bonhomie is set to face a range of challenges, with President Trump vowing to impose reciprocal taxes, curb visas, and a whole lot more in his America First mission. In his first move as president, Trump, in a flurry of executive actions aimed at overhauling US immigration, revoked birthright citizenship, a major blow to Indian H-1B visa holder families. He has also threatened to impose sanctions on Russian oil if the war in Ukraine continues, further impacting India, who remains a major importer of Russian oil. Trade ties saw ups and downs as well during Trump's first term, and this will continue this time round, with the US president threatening to impose reciprocal tariffs to New Delhi, who he called a big abuser of trade. While this dialogue between the democracies in the early days of Trump 2.0 shows positive signs, one will have to wait and watch to see where India-US ties progress. Disha Bapchi for NDTV World.
The call between Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump, quote, productive, saying the two leaders spoke about security in the Indo-Pacific, in the Ukraine, and in West Asia, which the United States also calls the Middle East. Now, the White House readout singles out two issues of import here. Number one, Trump's calling on Modi to buy more U.S. defense equipment. And number two, Trump's call on Modi to even the trade playing field, in other words, to reduce the trade deficit, making trade between the two countries, quote, fair. On the first, recall that back in 2023, during the state visit of Prime Minister Modi to the United States, there was a concerted effort to better coordinate the militaries for military purchases, in particular with the creation of something called Indus X, which closely coordinated or began to closely coordinate the two militaries as well as the military industrial complexes. That resulted in India announcing 31 armed drones purchase for $4 billion and jointly producing with General Electric Company a jet engine for the F-14. Washington does want New Delhi to buy fewer weapons from Russia overall. It's been really pushing New Delhi on that because it wants to starve Moscow of cash for the Ukraine war. And on trade, the U.S. still has a trade deficit with India of about $46 billion. And we know very well that President Donald Trump does not like trade deficits, that he measures bilateral relations often by trade deficits. We are very sure that he will continue to push New Delhi to reduce that trade deficit, probably by buying more U.S. military goods. Now, lastly, a note about a potential visit by Prime Minister Modi to the White House. That was explicitly mentioned in the White House readout, with them calling for a, quote, soon meeting. And under the first Trump administration, Prime Minister Modi was here at the White House within 6 months of the Trump administration taking office. We could well see something that soon for a Modi visit here in Washington, D.C. in Trump 2.0.
And for a quick comment on the matter, we also have with us on the broadcast Jayant Krishna at the moment. As always, sir, thanks so much for making time for us. Looking back at the Trump administration's approach to India versus the Biden administration's, how would you characterize the trajectory of US-India relations now? Are we likely to see continuity or a drastic shift in this relationship as Trump re-enters the political scene?
See, my feeling is there'll not be as drastic a shift as many are talking about, because there is a lot of mutuality in the relationship between US and India. If you look at, business perspective, US is the largest FDI investor in India. If you look at US is India's largest trading partner, and India is USA's 7th largest trading partner. So there's a lot of export-import also that happens. And the good thing is that the US exports from India are of an order of about $125 billion, whereas what India imports from the US is about $80 billion, which means India exports more to the US than what it imports from the US. So there is a trade surplus in India's favor, So I think we have to negotiate very well right from the beginning. And despite President Trump's campaign where he said that he'll come up with reciprocal tariffs and increase the import duty, if India behaves like a import tariff king and so on and so forth. I think we have to start negotiating right from day one, because any tinkering with the import tariffs that US levies on India will have will have an adverse effect on our trade relationship. I think that's one. And second thing is where India has to go very, very cautiously is about the H-1B visas. I'm not talking about the illegal migration. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has said loud and clear that India does not support illegal migration, and all illegal, Indians who have migrated to the US through the Canada or the Mexico route illegally, the estimate is about 16 to 18,000 people. They have no business to live in the US. So there is no issue on that. But the H-1B visa, which is for skilled people, I think it does a lot of good to the American economy in terms of we meet their trade deficit. We also, the skills deficit, we meet USA's skill deficit. And also, our techies, our doctors, our scientists who go there, they make the US economy globally competitive. So I think these things are very, very important to my mind. And, we have to negotiate. And last to not the least, to my mind, more than the geopolitical stuff and the Indo-Pacific region's stability and so on and so forth. To my mind, India must focus, if we have to realize our dream of becoming, a major manufacturing hub. And part of the supply chains which terminate with China right now, the manufacturing supply chains I'm talking about, yes. India has been aspiring to get some of it in India. And for that, it is very, very important. Some of the import of technology, I have a few examples that come to my mind is the GE HAL jet engine technology. The semiconductor technologies. I think many
there is massive potential on the radar, as you were highlighting.
Are very, very important to my mind.
But not disregarding the geopolitical landscape, many analysts are also asserting that this continued collaboration between both our countries, India and the US, is crucial, especially as both countries navigate issues like the West Asia situation, as well as the Russia-Ukraine war. But as always, Jayant Krishna, thank you so much for joining us with your views.